Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast, episode number 364. I'm Ben, and with me today are, as always, the most beautiful boys in the neighborhood, Dave and Brandon. Hello, beautiful boys.
Hello.
Brandon, that mouth is gaping.
What's up, man? Yeah. What is up, gentlemen?
Audio listeners are like, excuse me?
What is up, boys? How we doing?
I'm doing all right, Brandon. How's your day been?
Good, man. Just kind of hung out and drank these really shitty seltzers that I had in my fridge because they're just sitting there mocking me. And played video games. Got to see my girlfriend. It was one hell of a day.
Nice.
One hell of a day. Yeah. I'm a little bit tired though. I feel like every time I eat, I don't know if it's like what happens to newborn babies, but after I eat, I'm like always ready for a nap. Like always ready for a nap. I'm sure the alcohol didn't help, but it's like I'm on the downside of that though. Like that was an earlier thing.
Yeah. You know, something interesting I feel like I've noticed about you since you got this new job is that, like, I talk to you, I'd say most days of the week, not every day, but most days of the week.
Right.
And I'd say the days that you seem or say you are the most exhausted are your days off. Are you doing days off wrong?
No, I think it's like sloth, you know, one of the seven deadly sins. It's like once you've done nothing all day, then you proceed to feel like you've done nothing all day. Which I guess checks out, you know, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, you know, now that it's later in the evening and I've done nothing but stare at my screen or sit on my couch all day, you know, that's just the way of the road. And there's nothing wrong with it. It just means I'll sleep well tonight. But that's an astute observation, Ben, and not incorrect.
I think it just came to me. Like I wasn't sitting around thinking about it, but like just now I was like, you know, he's always most tired on Wednesdays and after he's had like 2 days off.
Yeah. I think it's just the compounding sloth. I think that's what it is. But
you go back to work tomorrow.
I do.
So no more sloth.
Back to the grind. So I'll just be tired in a different way, physically exhausted this time. But yeah, dude, it's been good. Wonderful days off. So I'm doing well.
Davey, you have not had the day off that I know of. Maybe you have. But you have been sick this week.
Yeah, and I've got a 2-year-old who's currently 2 in February. Like, I mean, she's a 2-year-old in the month of February, which means that there's just disease running rampant. So, ear infection is what we're dealing with this week. But,
oh boy.
Yeah, so
has that passed on to you as well?
No.
I mean, ear infections aren't contagious, I guess.
No, it's I'm learning a lot about this shit. I'm an expert on croup cough from last week, and now ear infections I'm an expert on. But yeah, so that's just kind of running through our house right now, and it's a lot of fun. But I actually wanted to ask you guys something. And Brandon, you mentioned seltzers.
Mm-hmm.
I had an argument with some friends last week, and I thought you guys might have some good feedback on this. But it was about the best beer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like the best brand of beer or style of beer, but it's the best situational beer. And this discussion comes up amongst males a lot. And the airport beer is usually one of the and there's no disputing the airport beer is a great beer. I can assign faults to it, such as it's usually $20.
Right.
But because you're on the start of a vacation, usually when you're at an airport having a beer, or it's socially acceptable to have it at 8 a.m.
Right.
The airport beer, it's good. But the thing that bothered me was a lot of people rank the shower beer very high, which I think is just silly.
I've never done that.
Yeah. So I mean, try it. Don't knock it till you try it. But I've tried an airport beer, or sorry, a shower beer. I'm not gonna hide that fact. But it's weird because it gets watery and it's steamy in a shower, so it gets really warm. But like, all of my buddies were like, it's up there, and I'm just like, no, like, a hot tub beer in the winter that is a better version of a shower beer. But shower beer is just it's not good.
I would maybe broaden that a little bit, Dave. I would say any beer that's around any sort of significant source of warmth, whether that be a grill, whether that be a campfire, or whether that be a hot tub. I think a nice relaxing warmth accompanied by your beer of choice, regardless of whether that source of warmth is. Right. You're kind of warming the internals as well as the externals. I feel like that is maybe the lap of luxury. That would be where I would put my vote for the best beer.
Okay.
I feel like when I'm in the shower, I'm trying to accomplish a goal and leave. Like, I don't want to take that time and spend any longer there than I have to. Like, if I was going to decide between a shower beer and showering quickly and going and sitting on the couch and drinking a beer, I would much rather go sit on the drinking on the couch. And also, when I'm in the shower, I'm typically using my hands to wash my body.
Right.
So, like, when am I going to take a break from the task at hand in order to drink a beer that I would prefer to have somewhere else?
Wait,
anyway,
a couple things. Do you not use your washcloth?
I didn't say only my hands.
Okay. All right.
Does your washcloth operate with your Neuralink? Like, what are you doing over there?
You just said use your hands to wash. Okay, I'm just double checking that. And second of all, I am more of a shower Pinot Noir guy than a shower beer guy. No, I'm just kidding. But I tend to agree with Ben. Aside from the fact that the shower is an incredibly enjoyable experience, I don't wish to get it done as quickly as possible. I wish to stand in the hot water and relax my body. See, that's where him and I differ a little bit, but the stance is the same.
Well, I want to clarify something. I agree with you in principle. When I'm thinking about a shower right now, I'm thinking about my specific shower, which my house was built in the 1880s. All of my stuff is outdated. Both of my showers are very nice, but they're like the old timey ones that like you have to hold and move around and wash and like spray on yourself. It won't just hang there. So for me, it's not as enjoyable. When I go to a hotel or I'm at somebody else's house and I'm taking a shower, I'm spending some time in there. And in previous lives I've had, that's been the case. But right now it's more of just like if I'm just standing there, I'm either holding my arms up in the air to let the water go over me, or I'm cold. So. Right.
It's a utility thing. You're just trying to in and out sort of thing. Okay, I get that.
The only other place I currently on a regular basis take a shower is at the gym, which is like a old men's YMCA and the showers are like open. And I'm usually there late at night, so it's not an issue. But like there is just something weird about standing in an open shower where you're just naked for the world to see without any, prompt like hurry, I guess.
See, because that adds a different dynamic to the shower beer. If you're in an open stall and you have the chance of seeing the inevitable elderly man who is way too open about his nuts flapping everywhere. Because it seems like at every gym there is at least a half dozen elderly men who just like to flaunt their naked testicles.
Don't even work out. They just hang out in the change room naked, reading a newspaper or something.
I don't know what went down at my gym. So it's a men's, like a historical men's hall. It used to be a boxing thing, and then they turned it in. They like bought the YMCA building, turned it into a whole like gym workout place, whatever. But like it's still very old school, and most of the population is older men. But it's a very private. Like I have a key that I can get in any time of the day. There's nobody staffing the place. People just respect it and don't abuse a good thing, kind of thing. But it comes along with a lot of that old school mentality of like all these old dudes. And something went down recently because there was a sign on the men's locker room doors that said, the only place you are allowed to not be appropriately clothed is in the shower room and in the locker room. If you go to the pool, if you go to any other, you must be appropriately clothed for your gender or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And those signs were only on the men's side of the building. As far as there's a smaller women's side, just because they didn't have women's lockers when it was first built. So something went down. Old saggy balls got in there and messed things up, I think. But
as it usually does.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was an unexpected tangent for this to go on, but
long story short, shower beer is an inferior beer.
Yeah, some of the other notable good ones were the fourth beer. I don't know why a fourth in particular. That's one that I didn't agree with, but
see, I would say either the fifth or the sixth beer is like where you're reaching. You could see the crest of the mountain.
Yeah,
I'd say the fifth beer is the crest of the mountain because the sixth is the top. That's a whole 6-pack.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the top of the mountain. And the seventh and eighth beer, you're going back downhill.
Yeah.
You've crested the mountain and you're heading down quickly.
Right.
I would argue the fifth beer is better than the third.
Yeah. I like the after yard work in the summer beer is really good.
That is
so
good.
When you could admire your well manicured lawn in the heat, that's a good beer.
On the riding tractor, if you manage to get a tractor, one of those new fandangled tractors that has a cup holder, that might be up there.
Right.
I gotta say, boys, I mean, I think there's a lot of good beers out there, but I think the best beer for me might be the campfire beer.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah. Just hanging out, smelling wood,
Pause.
No pause. I said what I meant.
Just like in that comfortable silence too, right? Even when you're with other people and you're just sitting there like
The crackle.
Yeah, like completely engulfed in the flames, like looking at them. And yeah, you're right. That's a good one.
You hear the crickets.
Yeah.
The moonlight shining down on you.
Yep.
Some good beers.
Oh my God.
Well, this is the HP podcast where we talk about video games and the best beers, the best places, times, ways to drink a beer. We didn't even talk about ways to drink a beer. That's a different conversation for another show. But if you want to help support us, you can go over to patreon.com/handsomephantom and sign up for the Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get every week's episode ad-free and early on audio feeds, and you also help support the boys. If you want to hang out with us and you're too cheap to afford $1 a week or $1 a month, we understand. Some of us are too, I don't sign up for every Patreon I see. I get it. But you can hang out with us at handsomephantom.com/discord. We appreciate it. Small announcement time. Due to a variety of factors, we won't be here next week. So sorry, but also deal with it. Actually, there is a small chance I won't be here the week after, but very small. I'll be in touch. I'll let you guys know, but I don't know. That doesn't necessarily mean the show's canceled. It just means I might not be here. So, it just occurred to me. Anyway, you guys want to talk about some more beer?
Yeah.
Why don't we just switch this to a beer podcast?
To be honest, when Dave was pitching that earlier, I thought he was asking what the best overall beer is, like for any situation, and I had already started concocting. The perfect beer, and I think I have an answer for it because it's like highbrow enough that it can pass for a nice event, or it can be like a fancier thing that you get out.
This is an already existing beer?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Just a normal Guinness. Dude, because it's a dark beer. I feel like it's low alcohol percent, so I feel like you can drink it for a while. It'd be good at a party because you can have it for the evening. It'd be good out at the bar because you get it from the tap. It could be nitro. I feel like a Guinness is just like overall.
Guinness has to be nitro.
I thought they had separate like nitro Guinness.
I thought they had separate nitro Guinness as well.
Okay. Not
There's like a different can or like bottle in the beer store.
There's extra stout and foreign extra stout. Those aren't Guinness. They are Guinness foreign extra stout.
I'm gonna look it up.
I don't know what you got going on in Canada, but in the rest of the world, including Ireland, where Guinness is from, it's all in nitro.
Nonetheless, statement stands. The best overall beer for any single occasion is a Guinness.
Yeah, and then
I'm just gonna say it outright. No matter what the occasion, a Guinness suits the bill. No matter what you're doing.
When I first started drinking beer, way back in the Stone Ages now, I remember trying Guinness and thinking it was the most grotesque, disgusting thing I'd ever had. And now it's like a nice, watery treat to me.
Dude, it's delicious.
It's beautifully tasting. It's perfectly. But like some people are like, "Oh, it's so thick," and I'm like, "No, it's not." Dude, you haven't had real thick beer.
You want a beer for breakfast? Guinness is perfect. You want a beer at a fancy restaurant after
dinner? You want
dinner?
A beer for breakfast? You drink Founder's Breakfast Stout.
When I was younger, I wanted people to think I was cool, so I brought Guinness in tall cans to a party, but I didn't know what the widget inside was, so I was panicking, thinking something was in my beer.
That's amazing, Dave. Yeah. I love that. Did you try and fish it out?
I did. It ruined the whole party.
So, Dave, you've just sent us a listing for a Google search of Nitro Guinness. What is it you're trying to prove here?
Sorry, Guinness Nitro Cold Brew is what I'm referring to.
But it's still on Nitro.
I know. I thought it was a special like nitro infused kind of Guinness that I've been seeing at the Liquor Control Board of Ontario.
Yeah.
And but you're saying all Guinness
should be nitrous.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that foreign.
I'm not arguing with you. You owned a brewery. You know this stuff, but
well, I didn't own Guinness.
Yeah, but you know more about this stuff than I do.
So you're basically right. All like mainline Guinness beers, Guinness, Nitro Cold, anything that says nitro in it, etc., is nitrogenated. Guinness as its own is nitrogenated. Foreign extra stout and extra stout, and maybe some others that I'm not aware of, are not.
Got it.
Those are the ones in the glass bottles that aren't.
Correct. Well, okay. You can get. Can you? I don't think you can get regular Guinness in a glass bottle. So yeah, I think you're right.
I don't think you can because I bought the glass bottles thinking it was the regular, and I didn't like it as much.
Yeah. I will say this: I haven't had it in years, but Guinness, not Guinness Extra Stout, but Guinness Foreign Extra Stout.
Good.
Very good.
But there was no arguing with the Guinness take, so I'm
no, I think we're all on board there.
I was arguing a little bit, but I yield now.
Yeah, were you arguing against the Guinness take or about the widget?
I was arguing that there was another kind of Guinness that had extra nitro or something in it.
Okay. So the Guinness is the superior beer. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's overrated as a stout.
It is. Say that. I agree with that. Yeah.
It's way too thin.
It is the light beer of stouts.
It's as the AAA of stouts in the beer industry. It's got to be approachable. So I understand why it is the way it is, but it's
I'd even say it's close to quad A at this point. Like, it's got the Ubi treatment with the Guinness now. So,
Brandon, that was a great segue because we're going to talk about Ubi next.
Damn, good for you.
That's right, boys.
And he doesn't read the show notes, so he didn't know it was a Ubisoft.
You're welcome.
Story coming.
Divine intelligence.
GameSpot says Ubisoft fires dev who criticized the company's return to work mandate. Ubisoft Montreal veteran David, these are all French names. I'm not saying them. Most recently worked on Assassin's Creed Shadows, has confirmed he was terminated by the company after a 13-year run. He didn't disclose a reason for his dismissal. He spoke out. While he didn't disclose a reason for his dismissal, he spoke out against Ubisoft's return to work mandate in January. Last week, he disclosed he had been suspended for 3 days without pay. He added that Ubisoft told him it was related to public comments I expressed regarding the company's return to office policy and based on an alleged breach of the duty of loyalty. His comments earlier in January were critical of Ubisoft's return to office mandate, which he implied was more about property values and corporate oversight than the spirit of collaboration that the company touted. When reached for comment by GameSpot, he said, sharing feedback or opinions respectfully does not lead to a dismissal. We have a clear code of conduct that outlines our shared expectations for working together safely and respectfully, which employees review and sign each year. When that is breached, our established procedures apply, including an escalation of measures depending on the nature, severity, and repetition of the breach. That last paragraph, by the way, sounds like a canned response from his lawyer, if anything. Also, just in line with the Ubisoft turmoil, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on with them, but I don't even think we're going to cover it tonight. Game developers, I don't even know what the website's called. Yeah, gamedeveloper.com says Ubisoft union representatives call for resignation of CEO Yves Guillemot. Two Ubisoft union representatives have warned that it will be impossible for company management to rebuild trust with employees while Yves remains in power. Speaking to Game Developer about the current climate at the French publisher, these people who pay their trade at Ubisoft Paris and serve as union representatives for Solidaires Informatique, indicated staff at the company panicked and angry after experiencing what they called a betrayal from top management. Guillemot was also called out in multiple messages posted on the company's internal communications platform, with some employees questioning why he remains in charge after presiding over what will eventually be 5 years of downsizing when Ubisoft concludes its $500 million cost reduction plan in 2028. Dave, you're the Ubisoft shill here. Talk to us a little bit about, one, seems like they fired somebody they didn't like, or they didn't like what he said, which was probably legal, but maybe a little sticky, a little icky. And two, people, specifically union reps, calling for the resignation of their CEO.
Yeah, it's I think first looking at the guy who got let go, I think if you're a company who's as obviously desperate to cut costs as Ubisoft is, I probably wouldn't be going and making public statements about disagreeing about their RTO mandates. So, people losing their jobs, especially people who worked on Assassin's Creed games, that sucks, but I also kind of don't feel that bad for this guy. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a shitty situation all around. I do kind of feel like, I don't know if RTO is as a hot topic of an issue where you guys are compared to where I am, where it seems like every big company is ordering everybody back to office at least on a hybrid basis. But I can't help but feel that RTO is being used as a workforce reduction tactic.
Downsizing, yeah.
It's a great way to get a lot of people to quit, is make everyone come back to the office. And I don't know if Ubisoft is doing that here. This is not an HR podcast. This is a video game podcast. But I just found it interesting because we're probably going to see this at some of the other big developers and publishers, if we haven't already, where, video games just aren't making what they used to. So, COVID-19 is far behind us, so everybody get back into the office. It's tough to sell real estate. It's not a liquid asset. So if you're sitting on that and you want to get that value out of it, then I understand from a business perspective why you would bring people back to work. And, professionally, I see it too. Like, everybody wants to be sitting at home. Everybody loves the flexibility. I get it. But there are differences in levels of productivity, I think, in some places where you can justify it. But going back to the Ubisoft piece, you kind of alluded to from the story there that there's this like 5-year plan of cutting costs up to $500 million. Tencent has not acquired a controlling stake in Ubisoft, but they have made significant investments, and I have to imagine that behind the scenes, Tencent is somehow pulling the strings here and saying, we need to see a strategic realignment in the direction this company is going. We're never going to see the glory days of, the early 2010s when we were churning out like really quality Assassin's Creed games in the heydays of the Splinter Cells and Far Cry's and stuff. Those days are long gone. But where Ubisoft goes, I don't think they've hit rock bottom yet, but I think they have the resources and the capability to kind of turn this around. And I certainly hope so, because I like The Division and I like Assassin's Creed, and those games still sell really, really well. And they seem to be being supported despite all the shit that's going on. And yeah, it sucks to lose the Sands of Time remake, but I'd rather have something cool and evolutionary from, one of the Assassin's Creed franchises or something like that. So I haven't lost faith in Ubisoft. My expectations are low, but I mean, the reality is this is Guillemon's company. The union can say what they want, but he steps down, his son is going to take over. Like we have the nepotism story from late last year where they started a new branch and his son was made like kind of controlling director of that. So I don't know. This union stuff is kind of silly, but yeah, I don't think Ubisoft has reached bottom yet, but it's not looking good right now. So yeah, I'm not super optimistic, but at least we got the old stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Skull and Bones hasn't been shut off yet. That's got to mean something.
That is somehow a marvel to me.
They were getting ready to shut it down last year, and then they saw like the platinum percentage of people who earn that platinum just kind of spiked, and they're like, someone's playing,
That's Dave right there.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. So
it is been a long-standing like marvel to me. Like I've thought this for many years, that it's insane that Ubisoft employs like somewhere between 20 and 25,000, well, at least employed. I don't know about currently, but employed like 20 to 25,000 people across all divisions. That's not even including like their contractors and stuff and outside studios that they work with and anything like that. That's an insane amount of people. And I mean, I don't know. I'm not in their internal day to day. Clearly, they need a lot of people for what they're doing and how long they're working on games and stuff. But that just seems crazy compared to what other people are doing with 300 to 500 person studios, which is still a big studio in my book. But 20,000, I know it's tons of games, it's tons of studios, whatever. But wow, Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with Dave. I think that getting people to come back to the office is a convenient shrinkflation excuse, just like COVID kind of hit us with a lot of things where things are seeming to be under good pretenses, but end up being a smaller package overall. Pause. And so, Guillemot having a $2 million salary is no spare change. I mean, it's not an insane amount of money, but after everything, I'm sure they're trying to save money on the top any way they can. And Ben brings up a good point with the size of the workforce here. I mean, with the, let's say, per head cost of this company as a whole to the quality of game, it's in the shitter. To understand how they put out such lackluster product with such a large amount of workforce really doesn't check out numbers wise. And you can't even look at the outliers like games that have incredibly small studios and do incredibly well. You have to look at the middle of the pack ones that are just doing fine and have way less workforce. So yeah, I mean, Ubisoft clearly has a lot of struggle ahead of it. This is another rocky scenario in their long downward swing in the past couple of years. And I don't think it's really going to change much. They've even mentioned, the hierarchy or the politics of this company in general and the kind of know of how things go, even if you were to step down. So, yeah, I mean, I hate to see it because they own a lot of IP that are incredibly good and underutilized. Even if they are being made into games currently, that doesn't mean they're coming out with anything decent or worthwhile. So, yeah, I mean, I want them to do well, but it seems like they keep running into roadblock after roadblock, even if that is their CEO. So, kind of an interesting story here. I don't think it's really going to change much, but you rarely see heads of unions talking about the CEOs needing to resign. So that's kind of an interesting bit in and of itself. So,
Brandon, I don't know that you had a point, or if you did, maybe I missed it, but you brought up something that sparked this in my mind. So I'm commenting on it aside from what you've said there. You mentioned his salary of about $2 million. Of course, that includes, stocks and everything, which change based on the value of the company.
And that was after a 30% cut because the brand Ubisoft was doing bad.
I don't know that that's after a 30% cut. I think he just one of the years received 30% less voluntarily. But that's what I was going to say is that when you consider that the average, because I've looked this up before, the average salary at Ubisoft for like anybody outside of minor roles or, copy makers, even the marketing department, which is usually the lowest paid department, the average salary for like the programmers and everything is like between 250 and 300,000. That's as of a few years ago. Is $2 million still a lot more than that? It's 10 times more than that, sure, and that's including stocks. But the thing that of all the bad things I've ever heard about Yves Guillemot, I have to say it 3 different ways every time, is like that I've never thought like, wow, he makes way too much money for who he is. Like you talk about Bobby Kotick, I'm like, yeah, he makes way too much money. Regardless of how much money his company makes, he's making too significantly higher. But like you're the guy in charge of 20,000 people at the top, you probably deserve the money. But the fact that, and maybe it was because he had to, maybe it was because he was willing to, I don't know. When he took a pay cut a few years ago, at least, that's like the one thing about him I've ever heard where I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Everything else has been bad. Every other time you hear his name, it's bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I tend to agree with you. I think that there are a lot more larger variations of CEOs making abhorrent amounts
a lot worse
of money. Yeah. But I'm not saying that amount of money is anything to scoff at in the grand scheme of things. So
yeah, for sure. It's nothing to scoff at. I mean, it comes with a lot of obviously public scrutiny, as we see, and as we give that public scrutiny as well. So I think there are some jobs that are worth more money, but there is a point where I don't know if anything's worth that amount of money. Anything else to say about Ubisoft and how terrible they are? I'm not saying that they're terrible. All right, just for the record. Dave is saying that.
I'm looking forward to the Division on mobile. That's something.
Is that coming? Is that a thing?
Yeah, coming this year.
Really?
Yeah, that's going to be good.
As the new mobile enjoy, are you excited for that?
I am.
Nice.
Yeah, I love me some Division. That game is like gone on strong too, the Division 2.
I do like the Division 2. I haven't played it since like right around launch, but thought it was good.
Arc Raiders ripped off its what was it called? DMZ? The Dark Zone. That's it. Yeah.
True.
So
True.
Yeah. I guess
everyone
so.
says that. Yeah, everyone says
that. Division 2 walked so Arc Raiders could run.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah.
MP First says Obsidian admits Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2 missed sales expectations. Obsidian is also often described as one of Xbox's most active studios. In 2025 alone, the developer released 3 major titles. The first was Avowed, the second was Grounded 2, and the third was the Outer Worlds 2. How did these games perform commercially? An interview with Obsidian leaders Fergus Urquhart and Josh Sawyer and Brandon Adler shed light on the situation, and the picture is not entirely positive. Both Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2 failed to reach Microsoft's sales targets, while Grounded 2 met expectations and is considered a success. They're not disasters. I'm not going to say this was a kick in the teeth. It was more like, that sucks. What are we learning? While releasing 3 games in a single year may seem impressive, Obsidian now believes it was a mistake. Only Grounded 2 performed as expected, while the other 2 titles, each developed over more than 6 years, fell short commercially. As a result, the studio is now rethinking its approach. Quote, I don't really think anybody likes 5, 6, 7 year dev cycles. We've kind of grown into that. Spacing those releases helps the company manage its resources and not burn everybody out. It's not good to release 3 games in the same year. It's the result of things going wrong, added Josh Schreier. Urquhart also revealed that Microsoft expects profit margins of around 30% for some Xbox releases. This helps explain why games like The Outer Worlds 2 also launched on PS5. Looking ahead, The Outer Worlds 2 will be supported with expansions, as Obsidian is not currently working on a third game and have no plans for Avowed 2. They have shared no plans for Avowed 2. It is worth noting that Avowed is officially coming to PS5 on February 17th, alongside a major first anniversary update that hits all platforms. Brandon, what do you make of this? Do you think this is a matter of too many games from one studio in a year? Or do you think the average gamer doesn't really care who makes the game as long as it's good?
I think the average gamer doesn't really care who makes the game as long as it's good. And that's kind of been proven by no-name games from studios that you've never heard of, or small games from a studio that has 3 people in it. I think that the reality of the situation here is that Obsidian made 2 middling games, and the hype around them was so large because of the namesake of the developer that they would have never been able to live up to the expectation that people have made in their mind. I think that releasing 2 middling games or 3 middling games this close to each other has also kind of saturated their own market and their own name. These games, by no stretch of the imagination, are bad in any way perceivable. I just think that most people are very choosy about what they want to play at this point. And if it's not something that's incredibly new or outstanding, or you have a very large sense of loyalty towards this company specifically, or their idea of the game that they're putting out, then I think that most people will skip it or play it for 3 hours on Game Pass and then not play it again. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the problem here, is that these games were just fine, and they were expecting them to perform like they were Skyrim, and they're not. Or Fallout New Vegas, and they're not. They're fine. So I just want to reiterate, these games are fine. These games are great by a lot of standards. Most people would love them. But I think that sometimes expectations kind of supersede reality with some of these studios that kind of have a very honored past, and spend a lot of time on things. They want the numbers to be massive, and that's not always how it works out, at least not anymore. So,
Davey, what are you thinking? And also, is it your fault Avowed didn't do better since you didn't finish it?
I think it's a really interesting case study, the way they released these 3 games in 1 year, 2 with a very traditional development cycle and 1 with kind of a more modern approach. And that last one being, oh my God, what was
Grounded?
Grounded 2, a game with probably a shorter development cycle, launched in early access, smaller price tag, constant updates, versus the other 2, which were longer development cycles, had kind of a big bang launch. And putting those 3 games out in 1 year, I do think is a little bit ambitious. I don't necessarily agree with the sentiment that Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed's release in the same year I don't think there was anything cannibalistic going on there, and the quality of both games seemed to not be the issue and cause them to kind of have missed sales targets. So I don't really think there was any development kind of interference, but I think despite the fact that over the last several years, gamers have definitely voted with their wallets and spoken up and said, yes, we still want single player experiences that are narrative driven. So I think there are room for these types of games, but you're still having to compete with that multiplayer focused live service stuff. So, going back to my original thought, I don't think they cannibalized each other, because Avowed came out early last year and Outer Worlds 2 came out late in the summer. So I don't necessarily there was enough space between them, but I still think that they're very similar games. And considering what you had to compete with last year, and the out of nowhere success that was Expedition 33, and then Arc Raiders, and some of the other things, those things really affected. They were kind of like the black holes of 2025 if you weren't those games. And I think those affected Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 more than we probably think, especially from like a Game Pass perspective, which is what both games kind of relied on. So I don't know. I do think that Avowed has a chance at, I'll say, like a Sea of Thieves scale renaissance when it releases on PS5 in a couple weeks. And I really hope that Microsoft and Obsidian put a little bit more marketing effort into it, because this is a fantastic game and it has a market on Sony's console. And we saw the amount of money that they dumped into Outer Worlds marketing with the Ben Schwartz ads, but I don't know. It's I doubt Obsidian will take this approach again, but I really hope people play Avowed when it comes out on PlayStation, because it's such a good game. And yeah, it's a little bit dated in its design and approach to kind of being an RPG, but it's focused and it's funny and it's interesting and it's bright. And it's, I remember that game first got announced and people were like, this is Obsidian's like sort of fuck you to Bethesda, in making a game that's going to be better than what Bethesda's putting out these days when it comes to an RPG. And then we got Starfield, and I don't know. It's sad to see that this kind of missed the mark, but it seems like Obsidian is positioning themselves to learn from it and hopefully give Avowed a second chance, because I think it deserves it. But yeah, I don't know. You got to be careful with these games these days. They can succeed, but you've got big boys that you're competing with, even without the unexpected ones that I mentioned. So
I think it's Avowed is really interesting because by all accounts it was a decent game, and I played a little bit of it and enjoyed it, but it wasn't something I wanted to stick with. A lot of people, and this isn't just picking on you and me, Dave, but a lot of people I heard said, oh, I tried it out and didn't stick with it. I think that's probably part of the Game Pass thing rather than the actual game itself. But the people who were looking forward to it the most because they were Obsidian fans of old Obsidian and because they were excited to see something, they were all disappointed. And it kind of reminded me of that expectations are the thief of joy saying, that like people wanted it to be a game that it wasn't, and they couldn't evaluate it based on the game that it was, which by all accounts, like I said, and Brandon said, was a fine game, but it didn't blow anybody out of the water. So that kind of stinks. And then The Outer Worlds 2 being a sequel to a very popular game is wild that it didn't do well. I think their costs and their margins they needed to hit were just simply too high for it to actually satisfy their sales numbers.
The first game didn't do that well either.
Did it not? I mean, it's beloved, but I guess I don't know about its sales statistics.
There's always a risk with a sequel, right? And a lot of them just kind of drop the number entirely because it's a huge barrier. But I always screw this up, but Avowed is in the Pillars of Eternity universe.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a because it was narratively in that universe? Do you think they missed an opportunity to more closely tie it to that franchise? I don't know. Do you think the game would have sold better if they called it Avowed Pillars of Eternity or something? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think you probably would have caught some people, but Pillars of Eternity is also not unknown, but old enough. I want to say, I guess, unknown as well because the modern audience isn't as familiar.
Right.
Not that it's ancient or anything, but it's old enough that I feel like a lot of people who are hardcore gamers then, a lot of people who are hardcore gamers now weren't hardcore gamers when Pillars of Eternity came out and maybe don't even know what it is. So it's probably as much of a benefit as it would have been a risk.
Right.
So the Outer Worlds sold 5 million copies, which isn't awful, but...
No, that's actually amazing. 5 million copies of a game. They weren't connected to Microsoft at the time when it came out. They didn't have that marketing arm. They didn't have that budget. 5 million copies for almost any game is a success.
So that's a huge fall off.
Yeah.
One might say it was kind of like a fallout of the series.
Yeah. Yeah. While we're talking about fumbling the bag, you could call it a fallout. Yeah. Do you have a point?
Just walking back my statement.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we see a lot of first-party games like, Gears of War and God of War and other games that initials are GOW. Like we see those sales numbers, 20 million for Spider-Man and this and that, but like those are the freak anomalies. A 5 million sales game is a huge success. Those are the initial numbers. That's not including the long tail and all the money they're going to make through catalog over the years, because it's on sale now for $4.99. And guess what? If 100,000 people still buy your game a year at $4.99, you're still making a ton of money. So those initial, usually first month numbers we get are what we really base the success of a game on. But even if it sold 5 million in a year at like an average of $40 or something, it's still a phenomenal success in my opinion. But it all depends on how you manage the budget and if it's bloated and the resources are too high and everything. And I imagine their team was a little bigger for Outer Worlds 2 than it was for the first one.
Especially if they got the influx from the first one.
Correct. Yeah. Moving on. Nintendo, according to IGN, Nintendo has acknowledged Switch 2 sales have been slightly weaker than expected outside Japan. Nintendo has discussed the fact that Switch 2 hardware sales were lower than expected outside Japan toward the end of 2025. Speaking to shareholders this week, Nintendo president acknowledged that overseas sales were slightly weaker than our expectations, something that had previously been reported and discussed with IGN by analysts, though not stated out loud, by the company itself. Still, an investor meeting following the release of this week's latest financial earnings, Nintendo shareholders repeatedly questioned the company on its Western sales shortfall, even as the Switch 2 overperforms within its homeland of Japan. While our forecasted global hardware and software sales volume remains unchanged, the breakdown by region and product is based on different assumptions from the revised forecast announced at the time of our second quarter financial results announcement. Furthermore, as you understand, domestic hardware sales volume exceeded our expectations, while overseas sales were slightly weaker than our expectations. Sales figures collated by the game business last month showed the U.S. Switch 2 sales over the holiday period were down around 35% versus the Switch 1's holiday sales performance back in 2017. In the UK, a similar comparison saw Switch 2 lagging Switch 1 by 16%. Even in Nintendo's homeland of Japan, Switch 2 holiday sales couldn't match Switch 1 and were down by 5.5% over the year's final 9 weeks. In France, 2025's final tally of Switch 2 sales was down over 30% versus the amount Switch 1 notched up back in 2017. While these numbers may take some of the shine off a successful first year for Switch 2 overall, it's not doom and gloom. Switch 2 lifetime sales in Japan are still above what Switch 1 managed in its first whole year, with less time on sale. And in the UK, Switch 1 continued to sell well enough that it made up Switch 2's holiday sales deficit. Asked for more detail on why hardware sales in Japan were doing better than expected, Furukawa has now highlighted the release of 2 games in particular that resonated with the country's audience: Pokemon Legends ZA and Kirby Air Riders. Dave, a few weeks ago, you were all blah, 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 Switch 2 sucks, nobody's buying it. And I know that's the only reason you included this in the notes here. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
So to reiterate the point I was trying to make is I don't think there's much significant about hearing that the Switch 2 is selling well in its first 6 months in Japan. That's obvious. There's early adopters, and there's going to be a lot in Japan. Was I right? Yeah. But I also said that I would be more interested to see that second year of sales or the sales into the second calendar year. So show me, the first 2 quarters of next year, and that will really show. I'm wondering what they're saying behind closed doors at Nintendo, because the price is a lot and everybody is broke in 2025 and 2026. It's kind of a shitty year to launch a console, but I mean, you plan these things years and years in advance, so you can't really just delay on this until, the global economy gets better. You just got to pull the trigger. But at the same time, I've said this before, I think from a software perspective, Nintendo had a really good lineup right out the gate. This isn't a Wii U situation. They had Donkey Kong. They had Mario Kart. They had Metroid Prime, which there's rumblings coming out that missed sales expectations, which is really sad. And then you have Kirby Air Riders.
They need to stop setting sales expectations for Metroid because they're never going to hit anything they're expecting. It's Metroid.
But this is a solid lineup in the first 10 months of this console coming out. They did not phone this in. They could have just put Mario Kart out there and Pokemon ZA, like that was its thing, but they put a lot of effort into this, and if it's starting to miss sales expectations, I would be worried. But there still is an ace in the hole. We still have 3D Mario coming predictably. and then Zelda coming shortly after. So those are big deals, and I suspect we're going to hear about one of those two at some point this year. Not necessarily releasing in 2026, but at least getting some sort of teaser of that coming. And I'm not worried. Nobody should be worried about Nintendo ever. They're going to be fine, Brandon. Don't worry. This shouldn't be terribly surprising considering all the external factors and internal factors that were working against Nintendo. They played it safe here with the hardware, but they didn't phone in things from a software perspective. You shook your head the entire time I said that, Brandon. So I'm dying to hear your rebuttal.
Well, I want to rebut first. And it's not really a rebuttal. It's more of there are some other factors to consider. One, they did say that the uptick in Japan sales made up for the decrease in other sales. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested in how that actually works, because if they were down as much in other countries as they said they were, I don't think there are enough citizens of Japan to make up that difference, but maybe I'm wrong. And then the other thing is, I think there is something to take into account. I don't know how much this actually impacts it. Switch 1 came out in March with a Zelda game, which we know is going to sell huge, and then shortly after a Mario game. March is also when a lot of people get their tax returns in the US, at least. It's a huge month for spending. February and March both are big months for spending, especially after the normal January drought of spending after the holidays and everything. This one came out in June, so while it is the same amount of time, it's not an equivalent amount of time to what spending trends are, at least in the United States, which is their biggest market and most people's biggest market. So I think it's not an exact apples to apples comparison, but I do think that the fact that they're down significantly in many countries, not just in the US, and that they're up technically in Japan is really weird. Like, it feels like it should be down all over the place or not at all. It feels like it should be up all over the place or not at all. And it feels like I would expect them to be slightly lower, but this is a lot lower. So, Brandon, go ahead and rip Dave a new one now.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely disagree with that. I think that part of the reason that Switch 2 is doing so bad is because the software is incredibly weak. I think that Mario Kart added a lot of really uninteresting things to a new iterative thing that you could just play Mario Kart 8 and it would be essentially the same game, but with all the shitty new features out of it.
But how does it sell?
It doesn't make... I'm making an overall judgment about the entire software and why it's selling less.
Is what we're working with here, Brandon.
No. Listen, because we're not taking a snapshot of any individual game. We're taking a snapshot of all the software available. Period. Okay, so
That's not what Dave and I were doing. But if you want to have a different conversation, go for it.
I'm saying that's why the sales are low, is because the software is middling. Okay, the lineup for the Switch 1 was significantly better than the lineup for the Switch 2, in my opinion, with heavy hitters, with stuff people must play to buy your console. Okay, that's my point. The only thing that I say is a must play to buy consoles, which I don't agree with this because I'm not a Metroid fan, and I still feel like it's a little bit more of a niche title. Even if it's a large title, it's not a Mario, it's not a Donkey Kong, Metroid and Donkey Kong were the only two significant softwares that I would say would be pushing consoles.
Metroid will never push a console.
But I'm saying it's the only ones that are worthy and well enough to push a console in my eyes. Okay?
Of the ones
everything else, everything else on the lineup, including Kirby, which is more or less another Mario Kart. I know it's not the same, but we're talking about a very similar experience. I'm thinking that that's why we're having these issues. I completely disagree. I think there's not much of a reason. And they've also positioned themselves to be in such a way that some of the newer titles are coming to Switch. And when you have the choice between getting these two games that aren't a new Zelda game, that aren't a new mainline Mario game, and maybe just buying a PlayStation instead and having this other huge swath of things you could have in addition to the games that you could play on your Switch 2, I don't think it makes sense for the price tag for people to buy the Switch 2 at this point because of the software. That's the point I'm making, is that the lineup, to me, is weak when the price is as high as it is. That's what I'm saying.
I think you have some valid points in there, but I will argue them heavily too. Because for the first, I don't know, Pepperidge Farm remembers, for the first 6 or 8 months that the Switch 1 was out, all you heard from anyone was complaining that there's nothing to play. It's all Zelda, and you can play that on the Wii U or the Wii, like because it.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Because it was out on the Wii. Now it did very well. It, of course, that's a title that will move consoles. And then you had Mario come out a little while later, which was very good, but I still don't think that it sold as well as they thought it was going to, even with the excess sales. I think that Animal Crossing came out, and no one expected that to be a heavy hitter. Not no one, but it wasn't expected to be as big of a hit as it was, and ended up blowing things up. And then you had a lot of other games in that first year, but still the constant refrain the whole time was there's nothing to play. Why would anyone buy a Switch in the first year? There's nothing to play. And then it ended up being like setting all these records. Whereas the Switch 2, I agree with you that maybe Mario Kart, the new Mario Kart, isn't as great as the previous one, but the attach rate for it is absolutely through the roof. Pretty much everyone who has bought a Switch 2 has bought Mario Kart. Now, does that mean you're buying a Switch 2 for Mario Kart? For some people, yes. For most people, probably not. Donkey Kong was very, very good, but I wonder what its actual attach rate was, because Donkey Kong is a beloved character, but is it a system seller? Metroid, great games, great series. We all love them, but they don't sell systems. Metroid does not sell systems, and especially it was also available on the Switch 1.
But this is what I'm saying, is when you have a console that is close enough and is getting some of the titles in price, in performance, to something akin to a PS5, it's getting some of the games that are coming out on that. And the Switch 1, even if you had less titles, okay, I'm not disagreeing with you. That was a common complaint when the Switch 1 came out, is that there was no software for it. But you have these generational run games at the beginning of the cycle. What I'm saying is, even if there is less games, quote unquote, there might be more games for the launch of the Switch 2, but the software sucks. That doesn't mean that they're better and will sell the consoles. I'm saying even if there's less games for the Switch 1, the monumental generational runs in games that the Switch 1 had was the reason that it was flying off the shelves. Even if there's more games that are middling and not bad for the Switch 2, I'm making the point that that's the problem, is there's not these generational games for the Switch 2. There's these middling games to okay games that will ultimately not turn over into those conversions that will make you want to buy the console. You will then just go and buy the PS5, so you not only can have these other games, maybe not the Nintendo games, and the other games that these other systems can offer, because there's not those console selling games.
Yeah, I think that's true, and also I think you're right in a sense. I just disagree that this launch lineup is overall weaker.
Can I come at this from a slightly different angle?
In 1 second. I think the biggest thing we're all not talking about, though, is the newness of the form factor. And at the time, nobody had a hybrid console, and Nintendo did it. And that hybrid console, as this article even mentions, is still making up the difference in some countries between sales expectations for the Switch 2 and the actual money they need to make, because they're still selling enough Switch 1s. And I think it was France or something. To make up that difference, which is insane. Go ahead, Dave.
So to maybe theorize another reason why the console isn't selling that well, I would love to see the targets versus actuals for that stupid little camera. Because one of the reasons I think that maybe the Switch 2 is missing the mark in a lot of regions is because the way they positioned why it's new, what's new about it. And they put a lot of stock in the whole social capabilities of, the Switch 2, and, you can stream with your friends and have the little camera and the little, you can see people playing Mario Kart that you're playing against and stuff. And I don't know that really resonated with gamers, casual, hardcore, wherever. And I think how many of those cameras they sold would be a good indication of that. And I think that can't be understated in, we all remember how confused we were by the Wii U. I think there might be a little bit more of that in play here than we think. At the end of the day, I think Nintendo was still very well positioned, but did they fumble this launch a little bit considering how good the software lineup was, in my opinion, both first party and third party. A lot of people were waiting for the Switch version of Cyberpunk to play it there, and we've got it now.
I remember hearing a lot of people talk about how they were waiting for
big time.
Yeah.
And so I do kind of wonder like how much of the new features people were seeing, and like everybody looked at the mouse thing and that was clearly a gimmick, right? Like who's actually using that as a feature? So I say they played it safe from a hardware perspective, and I think some of the new stuff they tried to push out there is why you should make this upgrade. Definitely missed. So I think some of that is playing in here as well, because that's really important. Like what's new about this? What's cool? What's sexy? You know, and we're about to talk about that in the next story, but I think that's playing a bigger part here than we think.
I think it's also interesting that like if you look at the sales rate for instance, Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World, I think, has sold like over 15 million copies now in its first 6 months. I think it was the data. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to date, and this is after 9 years, has sold 70 million. I don't know what the first year sales of it were, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is very obviously the better game, but it hasn't stopped people from buying the new Mario Kart, was my point. But I'll tell you what, next year or this year, I guess, if they put out an Animal Crossing or any kind of like this is all exclusive based. If they put out any kind of Switch 2 exclusive software for Animal Crossing, Super Smash, Mario, and Pokemon, they're going to hit they're probably going to sell 50 million units that year. That wouldn't surprise me.
And I guess that's what I'm saying is a quality over quantity thing. Not that the software launch of the Switch 2 is less in quantity. It's significantly higher in quantity and quality and on a per game basis. But what was there for the Switch 1 was of a significantly higher quality per game. And so that was the reason for people to buy. Does that make sense?
Well, maybe, but in the first 6 months the Switch 2 was out, when we're talking about Nintendo exclusive software, in the first 6 months the Switch 1 was out, what games came out? We had ARMS. Can't forget that banger. We had Zelda, but that wasn't Switch exclusive, but it was brand new to a new audience that could play it handheld.
And that's what I'm saying. Generational. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, generational, absolutely. And we had Mario. Also, you could consider generational. Yeah.
So that's the point I'm making, is that the quantity is through the roof, and the exclusive quality, not the quantity.
Yeah, I just also think that there are games, we don't have any of those franchises necessarily, but we have Mario Kart, I guess. I mean, I really do think that Donkey Kong is another generational game. It's phenomenal. It's really, really, really solid good.
And that's what they got.
Yeah. What do you mean?
That's what I'm saying is the point, is that there's more generational quality at the beginning of the Switch 1 life cycle than the Switch 2.
I understand what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
I think you might have a point, but I think if you're right, you're like 20% right, and the other 80% is environmental and cost factors.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think the software is
whatever.
The quality of the software is not the main reason people buy Nintendo games long term, or buy Nintendo software or hardware, I mean.
That's why I bought it, where I never would have bought it to begin with.
You bought it at launch.
I got a punishment for Brandon. No. I just thought of one for resolutions.
Buy a Switch 2.
No, I'm going to buy it for you.
Dude, I'm failing.
You have to play all the games you claim to hate so much.
All of the games?
Yeah.
I don't mind Nintendo. I just think,
Could have fooled me.
I just think they're not as good as everyone thinks they are, and they still keep making millions of dollars.
Friendly reminder, you called me a Ubisoft shill at the beginning of the show, and I'm a Nintendo shill now. Remember that.
Wait, You used to be a Nintendo shell, then you switched to being an Ubisoft shell. Now you're a Nintendo
Other
shell
way
again?
around. Other way
It was
around.
the other way around.
Oh.
He was an Ubisoft show, and now he's a Nintendo show. So it really makes sense that I'm getting so much blowback from a maybe new convert. Maybe you two have been talking about this behind my back, a new Nintendo convert, Ben.
Brother, I haven't touched my Switch. I'm the only one of the three of us who bought a Switch 2, but I haven't touched it in like 4 months.
Wow, that's some interesting news.
Yeah.
You
I
and
mentioned
everyone
that
else.
last week or week before. No, it's just it's inconvenient for me.
Mm-hmm.
What website is this? I have my browser window really small. Video Games Chronicle says Sony has patented a touchscreen PlayStation controller that lets players choose where to put the buttons. The patent was filed back in February of 2023, but was issued last week and is described as a designs and methods for a game controller. According to the patent's description and accompanying images, the controller would have a large touchscreen covering most of its top surface, where the buttons would usually go. The idea is that players would be able to customize where the D-pad, sticks, or action buttons should be positioned on the controller to best suit their personal taste, accessibility needs, or what best suits each specific game. It appears that players can choose to resize the buttons or even remove some buttons altogether for certain games. In theory, this could mean that if a player was playing a simple platform game, they could replace all the buttons with a single large jump button, because all platform games only use one button, just in case anybody was wondering. Or if they were playing a game that only required a D-pad or a left stick, they could choose to remove one and make the other larger. Often conventional controllers adhere to a similar control interface of having a directional pad on one side of the controller and buttons on the other side of the controller. One of the drawbacks of existing designs may be the fixed configuration. By way of example, a fixed layout may be too small or too large for a user. Similarly, a fixed layout may not be comfortable to a user. Manufacturers typically do not veer from layout or controller size to reduce cost. As a result, controllers may include button configurations for hand sizes that do not accommodate all players. There exists a desire for game controllers to allow for different configurations and accommodate hand sizes without having to customize or manufacture controller size. Guys, I think this is a really interesting concept. I don't know if it's actually going to go anywhere, because I think that we make the product for the rule and the extra options for the exceptions to that rule. For instance, we have some, I'm not saying this would be a bad thing, by the way, but we have some controllers that are meant for people with different abilities or lack of abilities. And we have different types of controllers for people who prefer them to have more buttons or less buttons and stuff like that. I don't think this will ever be the norm, but it is an interesting concept as an option. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I love when these patents sort of come out, and you're right. They're kind of like a concept car at a car show. Like, it looks cool, but the chance that you're going to see that driving on the road are usually pretty minimal. But I don't know. Does this give us any hints as what some of the cool stuff we might see in the next generation? We talk about how, from a visual and technical fidelity standpoint, we probably hit a bit of a ceiling. So hardware makers are going to have to find other ways to make us, want to invest in that next gen console. We kind of talked about it with the Switch 2.
And the PS5. Don't you remember the first thing they revealed for it was the controller, and that was like their main marketing message.
Yeah, and you know what's the DualSense? Like, they just made it cool. They enhanced a lot of stuff. They didn't try to force evolutions with gimmicky shit like 3D gaming or motion controls or stuff like that, but just put something in front of me that uses the latest technology and doesn't necessarily try and reinvent the wheel, but looks fucking cool. And the idea of like a touchscreen controller, I think about like a mobile phone, but obviously where the screen that you're playing on isn't in your hands. And I'm thinking about like what cool new things they can do to make me want to invest in that. And again, it doesn't need to change the way we play, but if it looks and feels cool, that's a step in the right direction. So you're right, Ben. This is probably something that's aimed more at a niche or an accessibility sort of thing, which is great. But I'm curious to see what something like this might look like. Half the draw for the PlayStation Portal is how good the thing looks. Doesn't do anything crazy. Uses some cool technology in terms of streaming games, but form factor is important. So if it looks cool and it looks sexy and it looks sleek, that's people will pay for that, and I would. So curious to see where stuff like this goes. But yeah, I love when these patents kind of leak out and we sort of get that weird little like wireframe glimpse at what might be coming or might not.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Brandon, how do you feel about a touchscreen controller?
I think when viewed through the lens of accessibility, this is a fantastic idea. I think that viewed through any other lens conceivable to the average gamer, this is an absolute nightmare. I can't imagine anything worse than trying to fumble around with a non-tactile button in stressful moments of trying to achieve something important in a video game. I think that the idea of this is probably much more interesting than what would actually play out in reality. Uh, I think that conceptually it's a very neat idea, but everything that's ever been proven to me about playing video games knows that when I push a physical button, it's supposed to do something, and not having that sensation might be strange, even with the new adaptation of like the Force Touch on iPhone, where it puts a
Haptic
little
feedback.
vibration, where
Yeah.
it kind of, gives you some feedback. I kind of see maybe that being worked into it a little bit. But nonetheless, I hope this is not a future that we live in. Have you ever got into a brand new car, a brand fucking new car, and all you want to do is turn on the heat? And you got to fumble through 5 fucking screens on a goddamn touchscreen when all you want to do is turn a knob and turn on the goddamn heat. And I know I'm sounding like a boomer now. I don't have any problem with the touchscreen in reality. I think it's fine even in a car. But for the love of God, make this a fancy option and not the standard. I
Yeah.
love the idea conceptually, but I want nothing to do with it. And that's where I stand. So,
Yeah. I'm on board with you there. I mean, I'd probably get one just because I like new shiny things. Let's just be real about it here. But would I actually want to use it on a regular basis? I mean, maybe it could be really great, but seems unlikely that it would be. Man, do you just think about all the complaints and like all the we're gonna get it all dirty whenever they came out with like white controllers? It's gonna be filthy. Well, first of all, wash your hands. I don't know how hard that is, but actually, a touchscreen controller would get very dirty.
yeah, I
Very
mean, come
quickly.
on. You drop your controller and the screen shatters on it. Like, think about this, guys. You know what I mean? Like, what are we gonna buy? Controller screen protectors now, where you can get tempered glass screen protectors for your controller. Like, I don't know. It seems like a can of worms that I really am not interested in. It's like a fridge with a touch screen. It's like, yeah, it's fucking cool, but I don't need to play Tetris on my fridge. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just let's not. Is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. See that woman who committed herself to the hospital because her fridge was talking to her because she had the same name as the ad?
Oh
It said
yeah,
like something like "Hello, Carol," and she thought it was talking to her.
that's honestly kind of hilarious, actually.
Yeah,
That fridge is based.
diabolical. Let's talk about video games we've been playing. Brandon, we'll start with you. Actually, we'll start with me. I've only played Arc Raiders this week. Did a lot of grinding. That's plenty of solo grinding as well to try to finish the trophy case and get my money up. I've played with some friends, of course, too, but more than I usually play solo. And then I've also just continued to play in Final Fantasy Tactics. Nothing new to report there. Just churning away through it. Now, Dave. Or I'm sorry, Brandon, you can go.
Playing more Arc Raiders. Nothing new to say about that. I started up a new playthrough of RE2. I was watching some challenge videos on YouTube about people running different Resident Evil games with outlandish challenges like permadeath challenges, no save challenges, trying to do like trifecta runs where only getting like below 16,000 steps, never touching a safe stash, and never saving on the hardest difficulty all in one run. And it kind of re-sparked my interest. And so I was sitting on the couch the other day and thought to myself, I wonder if I have RE2 on PlayStation. And it turns out I do, digitally, for some reason. I think I bought it back in 2020 and played it for a couple hours and couldn't really get into it. But that's all changed since then. So I'm looking forward to running back this game again because it was one of my favorites in my most recent Resident Evil playthroughs. And yeah, just looking forward to it. I do have the unlimited ammo, which kind of takes a lot of the fun out of it. But honestly, I'm just kind of fucking around. And I've already kind of beat it on normal once. So yeah, just to kind of go through it in a kind of leisurely pace and with a little bit of extra help. It's been fun. Who knows if I'll beat it? I probably will. It's not going to take very long, but It's enjoyable.
Nice. Davey, what are you up to?
I checked out briefly Deep Rock Galactic Season 6. This came out just last week. Obviously, it's a free update to one of the greatest games ever launched, Rock and Stone. So yeah, Deep Rock Galactic Season 6. It's called Relics of Hoxie's. Kind of the typical season release. There's a new mission type. There are some new enemies, and there's a new map. I think Ghost Ship kind of puts a lot of promotional effort, not promotional effort, but they put a lot of attention and focus on like these new mission types. But from my perspective, you know, the mission types don't really change the game too much. Like this new mission type, you have to find like, I can't remember what these called, but they're these massive deposits of, they look like big chunks of gold. And then you call down these rocket boosters and you have to attach 4 on each side of this big mineral deposit. And then it blasts off up the cave. And it looks really cool. But at the end of the day, you're just kind of running around looking for another thing and interacting with it. Like it doesn't really change the game. I do think digging deeper last year was a little bit more interesting, the way you kind of like call down the elevator and then like you drill way down and then you have to boost back up. But I think, you know, they added a new cave type in this season, and I really feel like this is where Ghost Ship needs to focus when it comes to adding new content in the game, is changing up the environment, because that's really, I think, what makes the game interesting is the different cave types that they have. So it seems like the community is kind of more excited about that than they are about the new mission type. There's a couple new enemies. There's one that is really driving people crazy. It's this like enemy that basically is underground, and as soon as you walk over top of it, it grabs you, and like it's really hard to get away from, and it has a really small crit spot that you have to your teammate has to shoot at. So I think, you know, that's pretty annoying. But yeah, otherwise, you know, anytime one of these seasons comes out, it's a nice breath of fresh air, and it's nice to see a lot more people playing the game and getting into it. So yeah, that's Deep Rock. I've also been playing more God of War Ragnarok. I'm really enjoying these semi-open world experiences where, you know, I play God of War Ragnarok, and I'm playing in a map that is carefully curated, but also gives me the freedom to explore somewhat and kind of tackle favors or side missions or side quests at my leisure, and go after collectibles and stuff. But it doesn't feel overwhelming like an open world game does. And playing God of War Ragnarok, when the map kind of like opens up, quote unquote, it really reminds me of like when I was playing Doom Eternal, and like I really felt a drive to find all of the collectibles and try to 100% every map, because it wasn't overwhelming, and it was just so well designed and focused where I didn't feel like this was going to get stale very quick. So I'm not saying I'm going to like platinum God of War Ragnarok or something, but I'm really feeling like a drive to try and complete all of the side quests and find all of the lore collectibles and stuff like that. And it's just a great game to look at. So, you know, exploring every nook and cranny when it's not, you know, a massive open world style map is good. So I really like these types of games, and it's got me excited to play Dark Ages, Doom the Dark Ages, when I get a chance, because I know that's a little bit more open than Eternal was, but still, you know, open world ish, but again, smaller, focused, a little bit more carefully curated. So yeah. And Arc Raiders. I do have something to say about Arc Raiders. I just crossed the 40-hour mark, which is, you know, you guys both have multiple hundreds of hours in this game, so 40 hours is nothing. But it's big for me, because that's where I kind of drop a lot of games, and for me to have to put that much time into a game in 1 month is it's a lot. So I've definitely got my money's worth with Arc Raiders. I'm at an interesting point though where I'm really struggling with PvP. And there's a couple reasons why that is. One is because I'm just kind of potato aim. I'm not like a PvP first guy. I don't have fast reflexes. The people playing are a lot better than me. I don't have skill-based matchmaking to save me like I do in Call of Duty. But the bigger reason is just I hesitate. And the reason why I hesitate is because when I'm playing with you guys or other friends or whatever, and I see another raider, there's always that moment where I'm like, is this a firefight? Are they friendly? Like, what do I do here? And then when it comes time to this is PvP, that moment, like, I'm not acting quick enough. So I almost think like I have to commit to one or the other. And I think, in my first month of playing this game, I've obviously really leaned PvE because I'm trying to learn the game, trying to get good at it, trying to build up my loot. I've got what do you call it? Loot fear. I don't want to lose stuff.
Gear fear.
Gear fear. That's it.
Yep.
And I'm just, I think if I really want to get into PvP, I have to switch like to shoot on sight. Like I can't do this wait and see. And I know that's one of the defining features of this game, but like I play with you guys and I feel so bad because I'm like it's like that scene in Dumb and Dumber where he shoots one bullet and he completely misses. And we got in a couple of really interesting encounters when we played the other night, but like I'm not reacting quick enough because I'm second guessing who I'm shooting at or that kind of stuff. So I'm really kind of at this crossroads of like how I need to play this game. And it goes back to what I said a couple of weeks ago, where I think this game's defining feature and what makes it special is also its biggest flaw. I don't know if you can have both PvP and PvE. You got to have one or the other. And again, it's what makes it great, but it's also what I struggle with the most. And again, I'm only, a small percentage of the way in. Like I think I'm going to play this game for a long, long time, but it's kind of what I'm going through right now. So,
yeah, I get it. Sometimes I'm confused and I'm the one leading the charge. So
it's funny.
I think it's normal.
So that one encounter, so I'll just kind of summary of what was unique the other night is we were playing trios. The three of us were playing. We ran into another group and they were friendly and they talked to us and stuff. They were looting one room. We went off into another room. Suddenly the friendly group that we just met started a firefight with another group that like jumped them. So we like went to the encounter and there were just people shooting everywhere. And we knew there was a friendly team there, but we didn't know who was who. And after all was said and done, the three of us were left standing and both of the other teams were dead. And Ben, you said something. You said, I didn't know who was who. So I just started shooting everybody. I didn't shoot anything because I didn't want to shoot the wrong person. And I'm an idiot because like, we would have just downed the friendly guys if we did that accidentally. We could have revived them. But it was that moment of hesitation where I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I just froze. Yeah. And I have to get over that if I'm to kind of figure this game out, So,
yeah, I get it. I think probably, I not that you've never played multiplayer games, but that's not your primary focus. So I think some of that does just come with like repetition. But some of it also comes with just being a complete savage. You just have to be evil sometimes.
And that's the thing, because some of the best experiences I've had in this game, whether it be solo, duos, or with you guys, is when you run into a cool group of people.
Right.
And like you just chat and you drop a blueprint, or he says, oh, go look over here, or do you want to run with me, or something like that. So it's like, if I really want to lean to the PvP, do I have to give that up? Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's the exception, not the rule, though, and I think that's the difference.
Right.
I think that probably the so-called, whether it's how real it is or not, I know the developers have confirmed it to some extent, but there's all sorts of theories on it. I don't really know that aggression-based matchmaking is ideal. I think it's better than purely skill-based matchmaking. But aggression-based matchmaking, like there may be an instance where I'm always, let's say I'm always wanting to be friendly, but somebody went in and took an item that I really need. And in this situation, it's better for me to kill that guy and take it because that's what serves my purposes right now. I'm friendly 99% of the time, but this one time I want to be not friendly. Well, that doesn't mean I want my next 15 raids to just get absolutely destroyed because I decided to take a tactical event. Like I don't want to get in with people who are only always shooting other people. And similarly, I don't want to always get in with lobbies that aren't interested in fighting or aren't going to carry loot or anything like that. So I don't have a better solution for the type of matchmaking they should do. So I'm hesitant to complain. But I'm not sure that aggression-based matchmaking is right because, and there are also, like, if somebody comes at me and shoots me and I shoot back, I don't want to then be penalized in the future because I defended myself versus me going in and ganking a bunch of people. So it's not ideal, but I'm loving it either way. So anything else, boys?
That's it.
That's all we got for you. Appreciate everybody for hanging out. Thanks for the chat. We'll be back sometime. If you're in the Discord, you know about it. You can go there by handsomephantom.com/Discord. And of course, join us on Patreon over at patreon.com/handsomephantom. Thanks, everybody.